Hey guys, in this video I'll take you through a super quick and dirty Rampstart tutorial for the F-15C Eagle that's launching in an updated state for update 3 BMS 4.37. We also get an updated alternate launcher version 2.4.0, and if we go to the key mapping tab you'll notice we've got profiles now. So from the drop down list we can select the F-15, and now we have F-15 specific keybinds that you can select for all your HOTAS and everything really. I'm not going to go through it all now, but for the purposes of the Rampstart tutorial, there are a couple of things to be aware of. So we do have under the throttle tab or the throttle heading a bunch of keybinds for cutoff release or idle detent. And so by default, and this may change in the release version, but we have Control I set by default to cutoff release idle detent toggle. That's all well and good, but you will need to select a couple of other, or rather set a couple of other key bindings, because this key binding only works when you specifically select which engine you want to manipulate. But that's okay. If you would like to set two separate key bindings for the specific engines, you can absolutely do that here. So we have cutoff release left engine and cutoff release right engine. So what I might do is select Shift I for the left engine. So double click Shift I, save, and right engine will do maybe Alt I. And you can check that those key bindings aren't used by just pressing them, and you can see there's no assignment set to them. Right engine, so double click Alt I, save. So now we've just set two specific key bindings to set the throttle from off to idle during the ramp start, and I'll demonstrate that in a second. But if we want to keep using Control I, you'll need to actually select the engine. So if we go down to the keyboard shortcut section, bear with me, keyboard flight controls, sorry, we've got some options for selecting which engine you want to manipulate. So Control backspace is set as default to cycle through the engines, but then we can bind some keys to which specific engine you want to select. So in this case, I know that the keyboard keys V, B, and H are not bound by default. So I might set, let's say, left engine. I'm going to set it to key V, right engine to B, and both engines to H. Just because honestly, that's what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks of testing, and I'm a creature of habit. So anyway, we've set some bindings to manipulate the engine cutoffs, and now we'll jump in the aircraft and actually do the thing. So here we are in the jet. I'm going to complete the startup procedure per the checklist of the ships with update 3. You can find it in the docs folder. Micro's done a really awesome job with the checklists. They are still heavily work in progress, as are many of the switches and systems in the cockpit. So I'll run through the checklist pretty much verbatim, but I'll identify any switches or systems that are either not fully implemented or not yet implemented. And we will also skip the cockpit interior check, as our virtual crew chief does a really good job of setting everything pretty much perfectly for the engine start. The one exception is the anti-collision light can come to the on position as part of those cockpit interior checks. Otherwise, everything else is good to go. So after the cockpit interior check comes the verify check. So emergency air refueling handle / switch guard down, that is not implemented. Throttles off, pretty easy to tell. So you've got off, idle, mill, and max AB detents. Formation lights off, that switch is hiding just under the left throttle. The emergency landing gear handle in. Arresting hook switch up. This is only semi-implemented. The switch will move to the down position, but there's no actual hook kind of modeled onto the jet yet. So if you do have an emergency that requires the arresting gear, just try and find the longest runway possible. That is still work in progress. Landing gear handle down. The mast arm safe. The emergency jettison button not depressed, and the emergency brake steer is in. Emergency vent handle in and vertical, that's over here, and that is not implemented. So EEC / engine control switch is on. In the cockpit, these are placarded engine control, but they are referred to in some of the documentation as EEC switches. So if you see EEC referenced, just know that's the engine control EEC, same thing. So they can come on via a left click. anti-ice switches off, the avionics off, which is as they are set per the cockpit interior check. So engine starting, we've got air source to both, the JFS start switch to on, and the JFS handle pull and release. So here's the JFS handle. It works quite similar to the Viper. You've got JFS 1 and JFS 2, which are 50 and 100% of the JFS capacity respectively. So to activate JFS 1 would be a left click. To activate JFS 2 is a right click, so we'll do that now. So ready light should be on within 5 seconds, or 15 seconds if it's below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the right engine master switch can come on. That's a left click once for on and left click again to guard, and the right generator, which is hidden behind the left engine master, that can come on. So for the actual engine start, what we're going to do is over on the throttle, you've got the two finger lifts. So the right finger lift will be lift and release, so that's a left click. And that ties the JFS to the right engine. You'll notice the ready light has come out because the right engine is using the JFS. And as previously mentioned, we'll use the key binding to select the right engine, as you can see here. And when the RPM climbs up 18%, which it has just done, Control I to select the right throttle from off to idle, and we'll monitor the engine instrumentation for a good start. So the engine limits are contained on page November 21, and off memory, it's we're looking for sub 640 degrees when the engine's at idle on the ground. So the generators come on. We've got some lights happening. The right engine powered hydraulic system is in the green, as is the utility, and we've got the temperature stabilizing below 640. That's a good start. So the JFS has gone back to ready, indicating that the left engine is ready to be started, and verify that the emergency BST light is on. That's this guy here. So other engines start. So confirm the JFS is on, JFS start ready, on, and the left engine master can come on, left generator on, and we can depress or lift and release the left engine finger lifts. You can depress the middle mouse button to pan the view around, which is handy, even though you can click it from inside or by looking through the right throttle, and then all you need to do is tap the middle mouse button to recenter your view. Unlike the right engine, we're looking for 25% RPM before we select the left engine from off to idle. So I'm going to press my left engine selector key binding and wait for 25%. 25%. Alright, that's a good engine start on the left engine, and the JFS is automatically switched off so it doesn't burn out with excess of 2.5 minutes operation time. So first thing we can do is close the canopy because it gets very loud. So ECS check is not implemented. The inlet ramp switches check auto. EEC switches cycle. So the left EEC comes off. We get left EEC caption, and you'll see the nozzle close. Right EEC, you get the nozzle close. There will be no right EEC caption. Engine anti-ice system as required. It's not, and the canopy is already closed. Now we have the after engine start checklist. So oxygen on, internal lights as required, external lights as
desired, so we can turn the position lights on. Verify ADI mode is on, which we have here. Radios as desired. So we've got the primary radio up front here. This is the kind of like equivalent to the Viper. This is the UHF radio, so we can set ground here. You've got channel, like presets, manual, which you can manipulate the manual frequency from here, or you've got guard. So we'll set that back to presets, and then here we have the VHF equivalent radio from the Viper. So we turn that on and select our intra-flight preset. So the NCI mode selector knob. So this is the NCI panel here. That's going to go to GC, and for the mode select and data select to present position. Numpad, press ready. Verify NCI lights on. Numpad, press enter, and this is going to start the alignment process. So after 60 seconds, we'll have a course align, and the align light just here will be solid. After 120 seconds, we'll have a partial alignment, and that will flash at 1 Hertz. After 240 seconds, we'll have a full align, and that'll flash at 4 Hertz. So now we can continue with the rest of the setup. So the MPCD can come on. Then we've got the menu and the DTM. So the Eagle equivalent to loading the DTC is the DTM, and we just press read. The VSD can come on. The HUD can come on. We've also got the seat height switch here. Plenty of you short asses out there. ICS and RWR and EWS. ICS, RWR, EWS, or EWWS I should say. Then we've got set 1 to 3 as desired. That's these guys here. They refer to the EWS. That's a topic for another video. Radar power, standby. So the bit on the radar will take 90 seconds. And then we'll check the AV bit light is on, and the CMD can come to standby. So that completes the after engine start checklist. Next is the before taxi checklist. So obviously now you kind of take some time whilst you're waiting on the alignment to set up your kind of any mission parameters. But for the before taxi checklist itself, oxygen is check. We have the push button here, or we have the button, but that the check is not functional. Fuel quantity, this is functional, so you can just check your fuel quantities and the bit. The avionics as required, so we'll skip that for now, but that's the radar, set up your ILS TACAN, any VSD or radar modes, even though it's still in bit, so we probably delay that for a bit. We can check the speed brake. So full up and fully retracted. That's a good check. The flaps, we've got retracted or down, and amber indicates in transition, green indicates set or extended. Flaps set. The slipway door, if air refueling is planned, so that's the switch there. It's not animated on the 3D model yet, but we do have a ready light there. So that's a good check. Trim, so this is actually an item that I would recommend setting a keybind for, because this is the takeoff trim button, but it's not implemented yet. There is a binding that you can set for reset trim, because basically presently there's no way to detect if you have input an improper trim setting. So typically before takeoff you would depress that button to set the takeoff trim, and that would zero out any improper trims that you might have inadvertently input, but we don't have that functional yet, so strongly recommend setting a trim reset button. So flight controls, check. That's a good check. Stick force sensor is not currently implemented, so we've got there is again a click button here, but the pitch ratio would go to emergency and you check the trim, but we'll omit that for now. So So the next step is to check the brakes, but we're still waiting on an alignment here, so we'll omit that till we move out of the shelter here. The avionics system, check program, packs, program as required. So NCI mode, so perfect timing, flashing at 4 Hz. So we can select the mode knob to INS. The light goes out. Numpad, press ready, verify NCI lights on. Well, the lights are still on, so we can press enter to confirm the alignment. And then press ready, verify NCI lights out. And you can just observe that you've got good data in the HUD and on the BSD, the situation display as well. You got your flight plan looking somewhat as it should. Where are we? So altimeter's set. So we do, in this current build, maybe fixed before release, but we do have a slight altimeter mismatch that's showing field elevation. Got negative 200 on the heads-up display at the moment. Ejection control safety lever armed. Again, we'll wait till we're outside of the shelter. GFS low light is out. Oh, speed brake still out. So let's just make sure that is fully in, which it is now. Bit lights check, which we just did. Investigate any unusual bits before taxiing. Master caution light is off, and the nose wheel steering is as desired. Taxi light switch, taxi light. So taxi light switch is actually not implemented, but the landing light switch is fully functional for use at night. So that completes the before taxi checklist. Now the taxi checklist is brakes check, nose gear steering check, and flight instruments check. So we're going to remove the chocks. Oops. And pull forward. So brakes check. Now the nose gear, or nose wheel steering I should say, works differently to the Viper. One other thing to add to part of your flow is if you have selected one or other engine, at this point make sure you reselect both engines, otherwise you could be in for some difficult taxiing. So by default, the nose wheel has, I think it's 25 degrees steering angle, so that's what you get. But if you depress the nose wheel steering, you'll get 45 degrees of steering angle. So it really, holy moly, rips around. It can be very handy at the EOR, for example, but certainly something to be used only when you're taxiing very slowly. So the nose wheel steering has 2 positions, either normal mode or you depress and hold the nose wheel steering to get your 45 degrees deflection of the nose wheel steering. At this point, that completes the taxi checklist, and I'll see you in the EOR for the before takeoff checks. Right, so here we are in the end of runway, or EOR, and we're going to complete the before takeoff checklist. So on the Eagle, it's radar to operate. Ejection seat, arm, I'm using the keybind Shift E. Flight controls, check free and correct. So that's all looking pretty good. Good check. Flaps check down, so we've got the green light still indicating that flaps are set for takeoff. IFF as required, which is not yet implemented, and takeoff trim check. So at this point, you would press this button here to set the takeoff trim, but that's not yet implemented. So this is where I recommend pressing your trim reset button, just to ensure that you haven't inadvertently entered some trim input. Checklist mentions if the aircraft is manually trimmed nose down from takeoff trim, nose wheel liftoff speed may be increased. Then next point on the before takeoff checklist is to confirm the canopy is closed and locked, which we have here. Pitot heat is on. We've got a click spot for it, but the switch is non-functioning. Warning, caution, bit lights, and circuit breakers. So the warning, caution lights we can check all out. We're good to go. So we'll get our takeoff clearance, and we'll execute a normal takeoff.
Landstrom 3, hold short.
Sure. So a normal takeoff in the Eagle is going to be brakes on, set thrust 80%, and check your engine instruments. For a mil power takeoff, the nozzle should remain below 30%, and max AB, as you add AB, should get progressive thrust, and the the nozzles should open up. Nose wheel liftoff, approaching nose wheel liftoff speed, you will sort of make an aft stick input and aim for 10 degrees on the waterline there, and let the jet come airborne, raise the gear and flap with positive rate. Am I going to get a takeoff clearance? I might have to force the issue. So final check, seat hot, altimeter is 0.
280 at 9 knots, runway 36. You are cleared for takeoff.
Alright, clear for takeoff 36. That's identified. Clearing the approach. The other thing to consider in the Eagle versus the Viper is the nose wheel steering. So as we talked before, it's on by default, and pressing the nose wheel steering button only makes it more crazy. So you're actually going to use the paddle switch to disable nose wheel steering. So once you get airspeed alive, I recommend depressing and holding the paddle switch, otherwise you'll be off the side of the runway in no time. So brakes on, run them up 80%, normal operation, and we're going to do a mil power takeoff today. So brakes release, there's mil. We got the nozzles staying below 20%, or below 30% I should say, and depressing the paddle switch, there's 100 knots already. Got a bit of a crosswind out of the left. So 140, going to rotate the nose to 10 degrees on the waterline there, and whoops, we're airborne. Gear up, and flaps up. And there you go.
3-1, contact departure.
That concludes the ramp start and takeoff tutorial for the Eagle coming in update 3 for BMS. Massive shout out to everyone who's had a hand in the creation of this. Tiago, Tumblr, Siva, Chihiro, Kawa, of course, and many others. Just a massive thanks. It's an awesome aircraft. It's still very much work in progress, but in this release, so much more functional, so much more fleshed out, and it's only going to get better from here. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments.